All right, so Falcon and the Winter Soldier has just ended. We had our season 1 finale. We might get some more seasons, we don't know. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys about, I don't know if you noticed, but there has been some conversations going on around Falcon and the Winter Soldier as the show is coming out, specifically about the racial undertones in the show. And so for the first 1 or 2 episodes, there were people who would bring up some racial things that were happening, and it was like some people would understand it, and then other people were like, oh no, that's stretching. I don't know if you guys saw this discussion kind of evolve on social media, but then as it eventually got to the point, I believe in episode 4, where Isaiah Bradley is talking with Sam, and it kind of just is in their face. No, it was episode 4 or 5 where Isaiah Bradley is talking with Sam, and it becomes the racial background of the show kind of becomes very clear at that point.
Yes, sure.
I feel really becomes obvious then.
I feel like it got obvious at episode 2 because
I agree. When Sam got arrested, that was the big
when the cop was literally confusing him for being annoying to Bucky. That's it. And it was so obvious. How can you?
Exactly. I'm so confused. People didn't see that.
Yeah. Some people I feel still were kind of thrown off and confused by that moment too. And maybe I think some people thought maybe that was the end of it, and they were like, "Oh, that was weird. Why'd they include that?" Right. But that's why I agree with OC. I think it becomes really apparent because when we see Isaiah Bradley come, they start to really focus on it.
That's
and
true.
It's an integral part of Sam's journey to accept being Captain America. But regarding everyone kind of denying it in the beginning, even I was I don't know if that show's going to concentrate on this. But also, I will say that life imitates art, because a lot of times with racial issues, sometimes people will willfully deny it until something happens and it's in your face and you got to deal with it. And kind of that's what happened with this show. So
I guess my general opinions on the whole thing, I would say that, so overall, when it comes to art, whatever, as long as it's the way it's done, I don't care, right? I mean, for example, you guys watch Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah.
It's obviously dealing with certain racial issues, stuff like that. So it's I really honestly don't care as long as the art and the message is being done in a creative way. I don't care. As far as this show context, I felt like it kind of came off, and I don't know it's because it's rushed, but it kind of came off, I wouldn't say preachy, but just sort of, it went from being subtle to being too on the nose. And that kind of, I don't want to say it kind of turned me off a little bit. I get what they're trying to do, but I felt like if it was consistent with it, it wouldn't come off, I guess to most people would come off preachy, but at some point it was just yeah, that's right, I'm going to be a black Captain America. And then he's he's not a black Captain America, he's Captain America. And it was just kind of moments like that just makes it a little cringy for me. So, but other than that, and generally speaking, the themes and stuff, I don't mind it being an undertone theme. I mean, Black Panther technically did that, but they did it in a way that was very I feel like they did it the best way, where it came off more of an underlying theme, where even T'Challa is not trying to say, hey, don't hate other races, but he kind of implied, look, I know the whatever white people did to your people, but it's not the end of the world. So I feel like as long as it's done very creatively and doesn't feel too preachy or on the nose, that's when it's done best. But when it's too much on the nose, that's when it becomes okay, so that's how I felt with the show. At the end, it came too much on the nose.
So the argument here is we're talking about if there's too much politics in Falcon Winter Soldier.
Well, yeah. So basically, how do you guys feel about generally how Falcon and the Winter Soldier tackled these issues? Whether it was too much or
I understand what Chuku's saying, where at times it does come off a little preachy, but I don't think it's too much, especially if it's done right, like Chuku said. I don't think it's too much because they pose it as more of a morality issue. The same thing with the refugee storyline. You know, everything that with him being like a black Captain America is like, okay, like this guy was mistreated as a black super soldier. Now I'm gonna change things because I'm Captain America. Da da da. I mean, to me, like I said, it's like a moral issue, and lots of great stories, you know, fantasy that are like fantasy or sci-fi deal with like moral issues also. And I feel like it's just the way it's posed in Falcon Winter Soldier, it is rooted in reality. And I don't know, some people I feel like can be uncomfortable with that kind of stuff, unfortunately. And maybe that's where some of the negative comments lie. But I don't think it's too much. I think it's just right. As long as the writing's good, it doesn't really matter to me, like with Chuku.
Yeah. I think that for me personally, the show handled it pretty well. I can see some parts and like some phrases here and there that might have been a little bit too on the nose, but I think that especially the conversation, all of the conversations between Isaiah and Sam, I think were well placed. I think that those kind of made it clear to anybody who didn't know or who was still trying to like deny it, yes, that like, hey, this is what we're talking about here, just so that everybody's on the same page. And so I think that was good. I generally, as far as just having politics in shows, I see both perspectives, right? Like there's the whole idea of, hey, we want to have fun. We want to kind of escape from the tragedies of reality. We don't necessarily always want to be reminded of it when we're watching something for entertainment. But at the same time, entertainment is one of the best ways to explore these things. So I think that Marvel has kind of operated, for the most part, like this isn't obviously the first time that they've addressed political stuff, but for the most part, they've operated in the fun and entertainment realm. And so every once in a while when they touch on these serious topics, I think it's good because it kind of adds to the dynamic nature of Marvel, the MCU. It's like, hey, we can, go from this reality bending show that deals with grief and trauma to this real life grounded show that deals with racism and politics. And then also we can just have aliens fighting in outer space with, Peter Quill. So I think it adds to the whole MCU generally.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. I think it's necessary. So
yeah, and it's like they simplify the issue a lot, and then they kind of have a mostly positive outcome at the end. So it's not like you don't have to feel bad about it if you like stand with Sam Wilson. Like it's definitely like feel good at the end,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So to what you said earlier, Chuku, about like how Black Panther did it differently and whatnot, I do feel like this show's story centers around the issue a lot more, and that's why for Black Panther it's a lot easier to be subtle about it and whatnot. Because in this one, it's like literally his arc is trying to accept that he can be Captain America as a black man. I feel it's like very, very a core issue in the entire show, versus Black Panther is about different stuff. I feel not necessarily just about like his identity as a black person.
I get that, I guess.
So that's why I think this one is more justified in being more outspoken about it. And I suppose that's why sometimes it can come off like on the nose. I personally didn't mind like any of it. Like I thought, if this is an issue that they're addressing and it's part of the core story, then they're gonna have to do it. So and I thought they did it well overall.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for the most part it was pretty competent. I guess for me this kind of goes back to it being rushed, where I felt a lot of those discussions, as much as I enjoy them, I felt like had it was paced well, it would feel a lot more earned, or at least if it was more I don't consistent in sense of the outspokenness. It would have, because it would literally, and in some degree, and you can argue that, like you said, it's a character arc. So you can all make the argument that the reason why Sam wasn't speaking about it in the beginning was that he was kind of embarrassed about it, and then once he had that talk with my God, Isaiah. Yeah, I was about to say. Once he had that talk with Isaiah, that's where he's like, "Bro, come on, just say it. You're afraid that you don't want to be a black person being captain." So maybe to some degree that worked. I just wish, I guess for me, it was more. I guess I wish it was more. If they're going to be outspoken, they start off with that, as opposed to just being a little subtle, and then all of a sudden they're just fine just saying it. So I guess the way it was presented to me came off like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
It was really the whole thing with Isaiah that affirmed Sam's anxieties and kind of brought all those undertones out into the open.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think it was, like you said, Scott, done well. Like if they were always going to bring it up, it's the way they did it was fine. But I do think the pacing overall in the show kind of made some things not shine as brightly as they should have. So, and that was one of them, I think, too. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it definitely did better than what's it called? Well, I wouldn't say this was politics, but I guess you can say it sort of delves into it with Milan and the whole woman power thing.
Wait, the new movie?
Yeah, the new one. Because they try to make it all about like woman power, and they went in a way where they basically made her a Mary Sue.
Yeah, well,
Oh yeah,
that movie
I like
sucks,
legit
so.
blanked out on that movie. I was like, "What do you?"
Oh yeah,
And then it just like came back to
That's a really
me.
bad movie to compare anything to.
yeah. But I was basically just saying like this is definitely a good example where when they do take something like those types of issues and stuff like that, and it's done right, this is a good case of that. So